Yeah.
That it's crazy that Puerto Ricans don't know that they can be included in Act 60, Act 182, and participate of these benefits. There's a notion out there that it's only for foreigners.
Yep.
Absolutely not. A lot of Puerto Ricans are taking advantage of Act 60. A lot of Puerto Ricans will take advantage of Act 182 because it's out there for everyone. This Act 182 is designated to casco urbano or urban city areas. It's not really island-wide. It's not for rural areas. It's more on casco urbanos, which are the traditional centers of each municipality. Whereas in the old days, where the economic activity used to take place, those cascos urbanos or urban areas are kind of dead now, and that's where the opportunities are to invest with these kind of incentives.
Love us or hate us, we invite people to come to Puerto Rico. We tell people what's going on the island, and we always want to let the local population know what you're eligible for. And this is just another one where we hope and we pray that the word will get out there because it can be so effective and help so many people. We need to get the word out there. Everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Krager, the Flip Flop Flipper. Today, I have my friend Mario McCann. Mario has been trying to help me to find a house for almost 2 years.
That's right.
Finally, he did it. We are now moved into our brand new house that we love so far.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that story. We'll talk about multiple topics. Mario's one of the dynamic realtors on the island of Puerto Rico, and we want to talk about that as well. So, Mario, say hi to everybody and introduce yourself. And thank you for coming in and sitting down with us.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It was about time, Robbie, that I'm here in your show. I'm an avid watcher of your show.
Yeah?
Yeah, great. And Apex, an amazing community. Great feedback, great educational materials. So it's a great community.
Well, thank you for that. Apex is our school community, guys, that Mario is talking about, where we network with people, we do deals with people inside of it. The most kind of significant thing, I think, is that I've invited my Rolodex and friends to come and be a part of Apex so that you have great people that are already doing deals together that you can network with. And if you want a great realtor, Mario's one of them.
Thank you.
He's inside of Apex, so it's easy for you to get a hold of him there. We learn together, we network together, and we do deals together. That's what Apex is all about. So
That's right.
The link's in the description if you want to kickstart your real estate investing career and join us over there. One of the most powerful things that you can do in this world is to know the right people and to network. And that's what we believe we're building. So hopefully you'll come and join us. Mario, let's talk about the story of I sold my house almost 2 years ago.
Correct.
I think it's not quite 2 years. I think it's sold it in late November, early December 2 years ago. So,
Yeah.
So like 21, 22 months in order to find a new house. And so here's my story, guys. I'm a real estate investor. This is what I do for a living and have done for 25 years. I thought when I sold my house, it would be easy to find
Oh my
the
God.
next place. My wife had some pretty broad, but I thought easy criteria. If we're going to live on the island of Puerto Rico, we want to see the beauty. We want to be in a place where we're taking full advantage of being in the culture and being in the beauty of the island of Puerto Rico. And there's a lot of beauty. And it didn't mean it had to be oceanfront, didn't mean it had to be lakefront or mountain view. She just wanted something that was special for the island. So it sounds like an easy task.
Oh my God. 2 years almost. to find
Almost
that
2
home.
years.
That's
And
crazy.
so over that course of 2 years.
How many houses did you see?
I think we looked at to live in. I tried to think about this. It was over 100 properties for
Wow.
sure. And I looked at everything that was for sale in Isla Verde for a long time. I looked at anything that had some acreage and a view, a distant view of the ocean and maybe a mountain view all around the metro area for the first year. Then we decided we were going to move west. Thought maybe that would make it easier. And so we were looking at everything in Rincon, everything in Aguadilla. And finally, you sent me something. You kept sending me things the whole
All the time. I had you in my mind all the time since the first time you told me I'm looking for a home, help me out.
Yeah.
I mean, present me with different alternatives.
Yeah.
You gave me more or less a budget, and I always had you in the back of my mind, but I knew it had to be something special. I didn't send you that many properties. I sent you maybe 10 or 15 properties along the way.
Yeah.
We went to see maybe one of those, an apartment in Guaynabo.
The Guaynabo apartment was beautiful.
Beautiful.
That was something that actually, was a little bit outside of what we wanted, but the apartment itself was
Yes.
spectacular.
Yes.
So it was
Yes.
very attractive. You
Yes.
you nailed it. You understood what
Yeah,
we
I
were looking
filtered.
for.
I had in my mind the kind of property you were looking for. You told me about your wife's prerequisites, and I tried to filter everything out and always send you what I thought was, that perfect home for you guys.
Yeah,
So,
you did. You did
yeah.
a good job. I think that first one we looked at maybe almost 2 years ago in
Yes.
Guaynabo,
Yes.
had it been closer to the ocean or a little higher up, I don't know. We were really interested. It was a beautiful, beautiful
Yes.
condo.
Guaynabo is a city, so
Guaynabo's
it's
amazing.
it's
I
an
love
amazing
it. Guys, I think the point here for you, when you're looking for a piece of real estate, it takes a tremendous amount of effort sometimes.
Yes.
And we hear this all the time, probably you do as well. There's no inventory or there's nothing for sale. And then I always ask the question, how many things have you looked at? How many things have you offered on? And for me, this is what I've done for a living. I buy 2 houses a week, basically, for 25 years. I thought it would be easy, and I still ended up looking at over 100 properties and making offers on way over a dozen. Like, I actually made offers on things that we would have moved into at least 15 times. And so that's a lot
That's
of
a lot
work,
of work.
right?
It's a lot of
that
work.
was
Yeah.
every day getting up and talking to you and talking to other realtors and scouring classificados online.
Oh my
and
God.
Just
And
looking for things that could fit.
And add to the complexity that the MLS here is only populated by 10% of realtors in the island. So you don't have data out there.
Yeah.
You have to rely on either going out there on the field, knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, or agents and realtors that have their own network of agents and realtors that share properties among themselves. That's
Yeah.
how we do business here. It's archaic, but it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have different chats where we belong to. We share properties. We go to open houses. For agents, we network together and we share properties that are not out there in clasificados, in the MLS, because in Puerto Rico, only 10% of realtors, 10% of agents are realtors, more
Only
or less.
10%.
Around that.
Okay.
Maybe don't quote me on that, but around 10% of the properties out there are on the MLS. So
Okay.
you have a whole world of properties that are not on the MLS
Yeah.
that are either pocket listings, off-market properties, and agents share it among themselves because they do. In Puerto Rico, we do a lot of co-broke among agents.
You do a lot of co-broke, you do, but there are certain agents that don't. And I want to talk about this subject for a minute.
Yeah.
Because something happened with NAR. There was a lawsuit in the States.
Correct.
And normally, or what kind of seemed like had been happening, is that Puerto Rico was moving more towards a centralized way to sell.
Yeah.
And the states had a system that worked for a long time. Well,
Correct.
they blew it up. And so now what's happening is it's a disaster in the states, and they're going to this system of having to sign agreements with the buyers every time, and it's gotten a lot more difficult. But for Puerto Rico, the
Yeah.
system you described, now the states are coming towards Puerto Rico.
Correct. I mean, the states are kind of emulating what we used to do all the time.
Right.
Obviously, the NAR settlement adds a little bit more complexity with a group of agents that probably don't like to do co-broke as much, and they're using that as a shield or an excuse to ask a buyer's agent if you have a buyer's agreement with your
Yeah.
client, and if you don't, they don't show you the property. And I find it, a buyer's agent agreement is necessary, but not all the time. There are certain times that you want to have the flexibility of a friend, you're showing a house, or someone like you. We didn't have buyer's agreement,
Right.
but I knew what you wanted and I was working on it. And I know a lot of other agents were working also trying to find you a home.
Yeah.
We didn't need a buyer's agreement. But then again, that's a personal way of doing business. Other agents are more strict about that. But the NAR gives these agents that don't like to do co-broke an excuse not to do co-broke, or make it more difficult for the buyer's agent to show the property to his client. Because now every property I'm going to show you, do I need a buyer's agent? NAR says yes.
Yeah.
And then, it's a process. It's going to take time until that lands in the local market. And buyers are used to signing buyer's agreements.
Yeah.
in Puerto Rico, because as opposed to the States, in Puerto Rico, very few agents require buyer's agreements all the time. It's only certain times.
Yeah, well, in the States now, because of this new rule, it's completely chaos,
It's
right?
chaos. It's an educational
nobody
process,
knows what's
yes.
going on, and it's literally changing almost like daily, certainly weekly.
Oh my God, in
And they
Puerto
haven't
Rico as
settled
well.
on anything. It certainly has affected the market. It has slowed things down.
Yeah,
I think it's made things worse for sellers. I think it's made things worse for buyers.
of course.
It's definitely made things harder for real estate agents.
Oh my God.
I mean, my goodness. So I don't know who it helped. I guess whoever won the lawsuit, maybe.
I don't know either. I mean, I think it adds more complexity to a market that was already complex.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna take time, like everything. We will adapt and we will find a way of making it work. I think the local boards need to do a better job in educating agents how to implement this new ruling. I think that's a key factor here, because everybody's doing what they think they should do, what they read or what they saw in some blogging or some influencer out there, but nobody knows.
Right. No,
And nobody's landing
There's not a
that-
system right now that's
Correct.
tried and true anymore because they blew it up.
Correct. And nobody's landing that information to the local market on how to implement it. I think that's key.
Yeah. So what does that do? Well, for me, I will tell you, I'm going to answer my question that I just said, who does it help? If you're a real estate investor, chaos is good. So
Yeah.
the decentralization of properties being sold in the States means that there's going to be an arbitrage. There's going to be a better chance that you can find a good deal. And there's going to be a whole bunch of real estate agents that just lost their livelihood, basically. And so I believe that the real estate investors, the savvy ones, are going to be able to go to these people and say, hey, these are my criteria. Go find me houses. You work for me now, and I'll pay you a commission. That's the only people that I see that it's going to help, and I'm certain that they didn't mean for that to happen. But there's consequences when you take something that's worked for years, maybe even a century, and then blow it up. That's just thoughts that I have.
Yeah. I think the player that gets more affected by this is the seller.
Yeah.
Because the agents and realtors are supposed to look out for the interests of your sellers, and no matter what, you want to sell that property and make it a feasible process to sell that property to that seller. Agents using this as an excuse not to do co-broke are really affecting their sellers.
Yeah.
And that's something that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and we, as a seller, so I'm often a seller, I am going to think long and hard about who I would give a listing agreement to.
Correct.
Because I want the world to know. When I'm trying to sell it, I want the whole world to know that it's for sale.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is the opposite of that. It's these little kingdoms that agents will have where it's just their Rolodex, it's just their people, which is good for them, bad for the seller, bad for the buyers. Really, I like it when everybody shares the information.
Sure.
When I'm selling, right? As a buyer, as a real estate investor, I want the opposite. For sure, keep it. It's
you're on
fine.
the other side.
Make
You're
it
on
as
the other
hard as
side.
possible
Yeah.
because that gives me the best chance to get a good deal.
Yeah. Well, also, this process adds some transparency. You need to tell the seller or negotiate with the seller the compensation of the buyer's agreement and ask them if they're willing to pay that. Before, you told them my commission is 6%, 5%, and they didn't know or they didn't care that you were going to share that with the buyer's agent. Right. Now you have to make the disclaimer and tell them, listen, I'm going to charge you 6%, 5%. Know that from these 6 or 5%, I'm going to share 50% with the buyer's agent. If anyone comes, any buyer's agent, would you agree with that? And they know that they're paying the commission.
Right.
Before, they didn't know, they didn't care, they're getting their money. It was business as usual. Now, when you tell them that disclaimer, it raises some concerns. Oh, I'm paying the buyer's agent commission too. Why? That might be an issue now.
Yeah.
Because before you didn't have to ask that. But then again, we will adapt.
We will adapt, and things will settle,
Yeah.
and a system will evolve, right? And it'll become universal, hopefully.
Yeah.
And it'll settle back down. For now, it's a little bit of chaos in the States. It's less so. It really is business as usual on the island of Puerto Rico. Nothing changes very much here.
No,
But things
no.
changed a ton where I'm from, like say in Central Florida. As real estate investors, there's opportunity when there's chaos. We call it chaos investing, and this lawsuit has created some chaos, some new chaos where real estate investors can go and find good deals because of it.
Definitely. You know, Robbie told me, I'm coming from Ponce. Be ready. You know, I'm pissed with this lawyer. I said, okay, well, you know, I was expecting that we were going to have a tough conversation. But when Robbie walked in, 7 foot something tall into that door, everybody was sitting there waiting for him. And he walks in saying, who's the lawyer that's screwing this deal? I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? I'm not going to take this. At some point, he says, if you change just one word of that agreement, I'm walking out of this deal. I was petrified. I was like, holy shit, what's going on here? Robbie, I was telling him, calm down.
Yeah. So there was some backstory to it. You know, we had an agreement. We're under this agreement for 45 days or something.
Correct.
Leading up to closing. We've been through inspection. We had what I thought was a good relationship with the sellers, with the agents. And then the day before the original closing, this lawyer comes in and changed everything. I mean, we had a deed that had been out there with the buyers, with their agent for almost a month.
Yeah.
And the lawyer comes in and changes it at the 11th
The seller's lawyer.
Seller's lawyer, yes.
Yeah,
What
because
did I say?
your lawyer was very
right.
efficient.
So the seller's lawyer had the deed that was prepared by the notary for almost a month.
Yeah.
And the 11th hour, he makes massive changes to
my
it.
God.
And the big
Crazy.
change is we were buying as is, where is, which is fine. We do that all the time.
Yeah.
He wanted to add in a clause that would indemnify the sellers from any wrongdoing that they'd ever done in the history of the world. So if they got bodies buried on the yard or they've been dumping toxic waste into the ocean, I'm supposed to somehow indemnify their criminality and their wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And I was completely unwilling to do this, right? So we went now a week or so through this. We get back to a point where we think we've got a deal, and we're walking into this closing that you're talking about, and Linda's texting me that, hey, they're trying to add back in this stuff.
God.
And the lawyer's there fighting with her, and the lawyer's fighting with the notary. And I had already decided that I was not going to treat this lawyer well. So when I walked into the room, Mario's right. I sat down, and the first thing I said, I looked at the lawyer. He's wearing a mask, and he wants to ask me a question. And I don't introduce myself, nothing. Everybody's sitting there. There's 8 of us around the table. I had invited Adon to come to the closing because I knew there was going to be fireworks. I failed to tell Adon that what my intentions were. I thought I said, hey, do you want to come to a closing? It's going to be a fun one. Instead, I just said, hey, Adon, you want to go to the closing? And Adon's like, I've been to closings before, but sure, I'll go to the closing. Damn, we missed an opportunity to film it and put it on YouTube.
God, that
would have
been
something.
Amazing.
So I walk into the room, and he's been fighting with my wife. I know that. Everybody's kind of...
He was interrogating your wife.
Yeah. And
something I've never seen. It was a litigation in a closing of a home, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. So I walk in with the intention of treating him poorly anyways, and rather than introduce myself, so you're the lawyer who's trying to fuck up this deal.
Oh my God. Yes.
And he's just like, no, I'm not trying to, I'm just, and he's, let me ask you a question. I'm like, I don't want to ask. I don't need your question. If you change one word. And then at some point he says, you need to respect me.
Oh my, I remember that.
I said,
well,
dude,
you're wearing a mask.
You're wearing a mask. I think you're here to rob me.
That's crazy.
Well, the best part is
I really enjoyed that closing. Though.
I enjoyed it too. And I'm glad that I came in with guns blaring, because I didn't need to have the lecture from this lawyer, who was trying to fuck up the deal, by the way.
Oh my God, yes.
There's no question about it. I don't think the sellers even had an inkling of what he was asking us to do. So I blow up. I do the one word change, and we're out of here. You can give me my deposit back. And I was really ready to do that. Like, I was pissed off. The seller and the seller's agent, they get up and they say, well, we're going to go out and discuss it. The lawyer kind of meekly says, well, do you want me to come? They completely ignore the guy.
They ignore him.
They leave him in the room. They walk out. They're out there for 10 seconds. They walk back in, shake my hand. Let's do the deal.
I know.
Nobody says another word to the lawyer. And so then when I did my little short video and I said, there's the lawyer that nobody likes, he's actually sitting in the corner sulking, right? Like I just can't imagine. He did not have a good day. He didn't earn his money either. He was just a complete waste of time and space. It was completely unnecessary. I don't think all lawyers mess up deals, but oftentimes lawyers can mess up your deal.
Yeah.
And he almost blew $1 million deal, right?
But it was rare. It was rare because usually lawyers in closings like this, by the time we come into the table, everything has been already talked and negotiated.
Yeah.
But in this case, he screwed everything up the last minute, like you said.
Twice. Yeah.
And very unresponsive to the notary.
Yeah.
When she sent him documentation, he was late always. He didn't have time, so everything was left to the last minute. I think that it was a toxic situation at some point.
It was a tactic that he had that he thought he could bully us into making a bad decision. I don't know why. I mean, I probably would have been perfectly fine to indemnify the sellers because he's a perfectly nice man. He hasn't been dumping toxic waste into the ocean.
No.
I'm pretty sure he's not got bodies buried in the yard or anything that's scary. But why he was asking this next step. And then basically, I guess he needed to earn his $3,000.
Of course.
You know, that's they call that a hammer finds a nail, right? Like so.
Always.
Always a hammer's going to find a nail. And I don't know what that was about, but it was one of the more fun. As a matter of fact, I can't remember ever having something or using those tactics before. But I had decided even the Friday before he was interrogating my wife, and I didn't know that he was interrogating her.
I know.
Until afterwards, and he's lucky. God, he's lucky that I didn't, because
I know.
she was trying to let me know, and I just walk in, kind of guns blaring. Had she gotten a hold of me and said, "Hey, this guy's interrogating me and try basically prosecuting me," I might have gone across the table at him. Right? It could have gone very different.
But it was an interesting closing. It should have been recorded.
I know we missed a golden. We could have had a viral video.
Oh
right?
my God! But you got a great home, though.
Well, we got a great home. Thank you very much.
Oh my
for that.
God, that's an amazing property.
Yeah. So we're really happy. We've been moving out of the apartment here in San Juan and into the house for the last week. We're sleeping there every night and doing it a little bit at a time. We're thinking maybe we'll be fully moved out tonight and there permanently. That's been fun. As a guy who likes to look at real estate now, I have a whole new set of real estate to look at, right? I'm in a different part of the world.
That area is prime for opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, because Quebradillas, Camuy is where everybody's coming from, Rincon, Aguadilla, Isabela. Now the next one is Quebradillas and Camuy.
Yeah.
Everybody's moving towards that.
Yep, I think it even starts Arecibo and then all the way, maybe even Barceloneta, and then all the way west.
Yes.
And so that, because we've always been in the metro, we've focused mostly on the metro area. Now we're going to be more centrally located in the island. We get a whole bunch of areas that we get to look at. I tried yesterday to drive around and call on some things, and I managed to drive to Rincon to get a good cup of coffee, and then I never finished my video. So I'll have to do that driving for dollars video again.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that with the new Act 182,
yeah, let's talk about that.
I think that area, there's a lot of opportunity in that area to pick up some good properties.
Yeah. So, guys, what he's bringing up right now is probably the most exciting news that I've heard. And I just learned this like a little over a week ago, and it instantly changed my investment thesis. So I came to the island to buy single-family homes and small multifamily homes to fix up and sell or fix up and rent. Basically, we specialize in affordable housing. That's what I've done my entire life. You helped me find a beautiful house to live in, but I generally don't buy $1 million home. That's not me. I don't go to Dorado Beach East. I don't go to Palmas del Mar.
Yeah.
I go to places where people live the way I lived growing up, working class, and we invest in that kind of property, fix them up, sell them to FHA buyers, or fix them up and rent them out to regular people. We were talking about rents, and we can talk about rents again later, but there's a section of the population that's like 4,000 and up. I've never paid that much to live anywhere in my life, and I've never rented anything like that. I rent to people that are paying $500, $600, $800, $1,000, $1,200 a month.
That's where the sweet spot is now.
And this Act 182 is encouraging me and others now to invest in those kind of products, which I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. It's so new that we don't know exactly who it's going to benefit.
It was passed on late August.
August,
It's been a month.
That's right. It's been a month. And basically, the nutshell of it is if you invest in affordable housing and you're going to either sell it or rent it, and it's 7 units or more,
Correct.
and we believe if you invest $1 million or more,
Correct.
then you can get 4% tax on the income that you make for the rentals. You can
Correct.
get 25 cents on the dollar on the property taxes. And there's a couple of other goodies, but the big one is you can get a 40% tax credit back on your investment. It's yet to be known if it's going to include purchase price or not.
Correct. That's the point. It's not clear yet if it includes the acquisition costs or not.
I've read it both ways. I think that in certain instances it will, and I think that also in other instances it will not. So it's like anything else. These acts come around and you have to jump through the hoops in the way that the government asks you to do it. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. But I'm a guy who invests in that kind of property anyways. And so when I hear about the fact that we could get 40% tax credits, obviously that's very attractive to me. And it instantly means that instead of going out and looking for a property that's 7 units that I can turn into a hotel, I'm now going to look at the same property and think, well, I can just turn it into long-term housing.
Long-term.
I could do Section 8 rentals, or I could do market rate rentals.
Correct.
And to me, I feel like that's more needed. Like I think that the island wants to increase the revenues from hospitality. So that's why they have Tourism Act 60. But they also have a housing shortage.
Of course.
And there's a massive need for places that people can live.
Oh my God, there's a lot
for the regular people.
A lot of distressed properties out there, estorbos públicos that need to be fixed, and this will help. I think it's a first step in the great direction.
Yeah.
It'll help, alleviate the lack of affordable rentals out there in the marketplace.
Right. That's supply and demand, right? Now, so rents have been rising because we have a housing shortage.
Yeah.
And it gets more expensive when you have less things on the market. So by implementing this act, if you can invest in more supply, then prices probably level out. Here's the bad thing. Prices almost never go down, right? Once people learn to pay $1,000 a month for a place, it doesn't usually go back to $800 a month. That's an unfortunate side effect of inflation. I think that the rulers of this world teach us to pay more for groceries, more for gas. And generally speaking, it doesn't go down.
No.
But more supply does put downward pressure on it, and it could at least level off. Maybe it goes down a little bit even.
Well, let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
It's really needed, and you guys are helping a lot in investing in these properties and providing affordable housing to this market that really needs that out there.
Well, I appreciate you say that. I think we're like a drop in the bucket, and the fact that the government's trying to encourage other people to come along and invest in this way,
and not only other people, Puerto Ricans can get into this.
That's the best thing, right? Yeah,
it's crazy that Puerto Ricans don't know that they can be included in Act 60, Act 182, and participate of these benefits. There's a notion out there that it's only for foreigners. Absolutely not. A lot of Puerto Ricans are taking advantage of Act 60. A lot of Puerto Ricans will take advantage of Act 182 because it's out there for everyone.
There will be more locals that take advantage of Act 182 than there will be foreigners, because there's a big population of local real estate investors who are going to take advantage of this.
Of course.
And it's going to do a lot of good. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, because when the government does something that's going to help the population, you'd think that they'd shout it from the rooftops and they'd tell the world. And it doesn't seem to happen. I mean,
it doesn't filter down.
It doesn't filter down. It seems to get trapped in this kind of elite class, right? Like there are local investors that know about it, that will benefit from it greatly, but it doesn't get shouted
mainstream.
out. So we try to do that, guys. Love us or hate us. We invite people to come to Puerto Rico. We tell people what's going on the island, and we always want to let the local population know what you're eligible for. And this is just another one where we hope and we pray that the word will get out there, because it can be so effective and help so many people. We need to get the word out there. And I can't affect change if there's a 250,000 homes that need to be built on this island. And, during the course of a year, we put out 25 new long-term rental properties, let's say.
Yeah.
But this is not even a drop in the bucket, right? Like this is a blip on the radar. But me doing it, a Don doing it, you doing it, and and 1,000 other people, then you can affect change.
Of course.
And here's one other thing. On the island, we have about 250,000 shortage in this kind of housing, this affordable housing.
Yeah.
We have over 300,000 buildings on the island that just sit in disrepair, and they're abandoned and they're not in use. So this particular act really could start to relieve some stress.
Of course.
These
And
buildings
add some
can be
inventory,
brought back up to something that's usable.
Of course. And, add that inventory that's needed out there. In certain towns more than in others. When you get out of the metro area is where you see the real opportunity.
Yeah.
You drive by Arecibo a lot. Arecibo is a town that really needs these kind of incentives to get that urban area back up again. There's a lot of buildings out there in that drive north to the west. There's a lot of empty buildings. Great opportunity for investors to look at those properties and revitalize them.
Yeah, that's right.
This Act 182 is designated to casco urbano or urban city areas. It's not really island-wide. It's not for rural areas. It's more on casco urbanos, which are the traditional centers of each municipality. Whereas in the old days, where the economic activity used to take place, those cascos urbanos or urban areas are kind of dead now, and that's where the opportunities are to invest with these kind of incentives.
So places like Rio Piedras used to be very populated and popular place to go and shop.
It was bustling. Back in the 70s, 80s, it was a bustling city.
And then malls happened and highways happened, and it kind of died.
It died.
For decades.
Yeah.
But now, with this new Act 182, it'll start to see revitalization. I believe that's what you're kind of pointing to.
Correct, correct. And Rio Piedras is one of the towns that really got ahead before these incentives, and they got a lot of investments from the local communities to revitalize Rio Piedras.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this kind of incentive came. They learned from what Rio Piedras did, and they're trying to emulate that across different towns around the island.
Yeah. And so in each town, let's say on the island, there's a pueblo, there's a square,
Pueblo,
right?
yeah,
And you're talking about these areas.
Those areas. Obviously, it has to be defined, or you have to do your own due diligence to understand what area in that town.
Right. I think there's a map, or there will be a map that will kind of
Similar,
tell you, and it can literally be this one's in, and the one across the street is out.
Of course. Like Santurce might be in, but two streets down Santurce, you have Condado. Condado is not going to be in at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see these maps and see how it affects growth, right?
Yeah.
Like, but obviously, Old San Juan and Condado and Miramar and the more affluent places aren't going to have the same. They're not going to be able to take advantage of this Act 182.
No, not at all.
But places like Humacao in those towns, in Arecibo and Camoy and Quebradillas, they're all going to have a map that will have these properties in it.
Similar to the opportunity zone maps. I mean, something like that.
Yeah. Probably not as widespread.
No, because obviously Puerto Rico is 98% opportunity zone.
Yeah, it is.
But this is going to be more narrow.
And I guess you make a good point. Puerto Rico, 98% opportunity zone means that probably these smaller areas will still be in opportunity zones, and you can stack these things.
Maybe combine them.
You could combine them. You could stack them up, which is one of the great things about opportunity zones. We've got other content on opportunity zones. If you guys don't know about it, we have a whole playlist on it, so check that out.
Yeah.
So Mario, I believe you're to be an expert in Puerto Rico real estate. I'd love to ask you your opinion on where do you see things going over the next maybe 5 to 10 years for the island?
Well, I always have a positive outlook on real estate on the island. If you ask me, I think the government needs to step in and add more incentives for new construction. I think we're lacking new construction in Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, the costs of materials, lack of labor is another area where we really need the government to be more flexible in probably importing labor from Dominican Republic, Mexico, Latin America to Puerto Rico to come to work in construction, because we are lacking labor. Material costs are extremely high, and the government needs to incentivize builders to build not only social affordable housing, but housing for the middle class. I mean, we're lacking housing in Puerto
It
Rico.
all takes pressure off, right? Like,
Of
so
course.
if someone comes in and builds $1 million home, that's one more millionaire who's got a home, great. But if someone comes in and builds affordable housing, it helps the masses. It also helps the people who are a step up. If those are being built, it all needs to be built. The truth is, unfortunately for the island of Puerto Rico, nothing's been built in more than a
Nothing at all.
decade.
Nothing at
So
all.
really, it's only just now that we're starting to see housing developments, housing starts, we
Yeah.
call them in the
And
States.
unfortunately, too, a lot of the new housing is being built for the upper middle
Yeah.
and higher class because since the costs are so high, you have to sell these homes
Yeah.
extremely at high prices. So you have to really, I mean, the builders have to make some money here.
Yeah, and it's gotten really, it's tripled since COVID. Really,
course.
everybody says that this inflation is, like 10% or 20% or 25. It's not.
No.
The cost to build stuff has tripled.
Tripled.
The cost to insure stuff quadrupled. It's unrealistic to think that development is going to happen and that the developers aren't going to make money, right? Like,
No.
it does mean that things are going to be more expensive. And I talked about that earlier. I think it's by design. That's what inflation does. It teaches
Yeah,
us
but
to pay more, and
the-
wages never seem to keep up.
Of course, and these incentive programs will help, but
Yeah.
like you said before, it's a drop in the bucket. The government needs to really incentivize builders.
Yeah.
Because if you want to build socially affordable housing or middle class housing, they need help.
Yeah.
And they need incentives to make these communities affordable, but at the same time that they can make a profit out of it.
Profitable.
So definitely.
Yeah.
That's where I think we need some help from the government. But I always see a positive outlook. I mean, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans coming back from the States, retiring here,
Yeah.
buying homes, remodeling them. I mean, it's not only Americans, like people, I mean, Puerto Ricans are Americans, I mean, but non-Puerto Ricans coming to Puerto Rico and investing. We see a lot of Puerto Ricans that want to retire on the island, and they come here, they buy properties cash, they buy properties through financing, they remodel those properties.
Yeah.
So I think that's we're going to continue seeing that moving forward.
Yeah, so we're seeing that too, right? Like the population that's coming back, Mario, to your point, are people who left the island. They call it brain drain. They go to the States for better opportunities. They work there for 20 years, and now they're ready to retire, and they come back, and they're fairly affluent.
Yeah.
So these are people who have ties to the island, locals, and they're coming back to the island, and they're starting businesses, and they're buying homes, and the economy is going to improve because of it.
Definitely. I think the combined factors of these people coming in plus these incentives that we talk about, like Act 182, I mean, that should help the local market pick up, the housing market pick up again in Puerto Rico. Although it's been a great past few years. For me, this past year, 2024, was a little bit slower. Not only on the selling side, on selling houses, but also on the renting side. But I'm pretty sure now with the interest rates, which came down a couple of months ago, we're going to start seeing that ripple effect moving forward.
I think that's right. As interest rates continue to come down, you're going to see some people get off of the sidelines and start
Definitely.
to buy, which could in the short term mean that prices go up again on the island
course.
because we really do have a supply problem.
We do.
We have a big supply problem
Across the board in all segments.
in all segments. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Robert, let me ask you, what's your outlook on the next 5 to 10 years? What are you planning to do? Are you staying in Puerto Rico, continue investing here? Hopefully, guys like you add a lot of value to the local market. And I think, your involvement in real estate here has a huge impact. And what are you planning to do moving forward?
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think moving forward, we're going to do more of what we've been doing. We love the business that we've started here on the island. We're doing things in Puerto Rico that we never had the chance to do back in the States. So when I was in Florida, my business was single family housing, almost exclusively. And we came to the island to invest in that same way and replicate the business. And then fairly quickly, the island started offering us other opportunities, and we became hoteliers, and we started investing in commercial and mixed use. And now Act 182 has me, and I mean, this is just brand new, refocused on really the business that I love and that I'm good at, which is affordable housing. And so we will certainly be investing using Act 182, and we will start to do more of this 7 to 20 units and putting them out there for long-term rentals, or we'll invest in possibly new start housing and sell it to the local population, you know, with an FHA loan. That's been the way that we've done real estate for 25 years, and that's what I see us doing for the next 5 or 10 or 15 years, and hopefully beyond, right? Like, so one thing that I'm really happy about that I've started doing when I came to the island of Puerto Rico is that we invite partnerships. So Adon, for instance, no, there he is, Adon. Adon came to me and said he had a skill set on film, and so we did this YouTube stuff, and he wanted to learn about real estate. Now, Adon is a real estate investor, and I've invested in or invested with a small group of younger people that I hope will mean that I get to invest with them for really the rest of my life, right? Like when I was younger, some older people backed me, mentored me, backed me, you know, funded deals that I would bring to the table. And now there's hopefully a bunch of people that I'm investing with that will kind of carry the torch, and I get to ride their coattails for a while for the next 20 years. That's the vision that I have, and that's why that's one of the reasons why we invite partnerships so often, is because we can do more together than we can apart. Again, we talked about this a little bit. Anything that I would ever do as an investor is just a drop in the drop of a bucket, right? Yeah. But the more people that can come alongside of us, that's where change can happen.
Definitely.
And so that's what I see with the island of Puerto Rico, is like it's a rocket ship economy and going up. And I think things like Act 182 and things like people coming back to the island because they've gone for 20 years and they've worked really hard and they're ready to retire. Mm-hmm. This is going to continue to push things up for the next several years. So I expect to be here on the island for the next 5 or 10 years, and we'll probably have a healthy mix of going back and forth between home and here. And I've got some kids that are going to start to have families, and so wherever they have grandkids, we'll have ties to. You know, that's sort of going to be the way that life goes for us for the next several years. Wherever there are grandchildren, we'll go and hang out in those areas too.
And with that beautiful house you just bought, I mean, you're staying here for a long time.
I have a place that we believe that we'll be able to always invite the family to, and it'll be something that's special, right?
Excellent.
That's hopefully a legacy play for us.
Perfect.
Yeah, I do appreciate you being so diligent and helping us to find that finally. Yeah. So, guys, and just to leave you with this, just know if you want to find a house, if you want to find the place that you're going to call home, it can take a lot of work. I mean, I'm a professional real estate investor, and it took me looking at well over 100 properties and making offers on more than a dozen until we finally found something that worked.
Yeah.
And by the way, I had to double my price that I was willing to pay. Like, I wanted to buy a house for about $500,000. And that became apparent. Like, that's just not happening.
Not an oceanfront house.
That's just not happening. Yeah. So you have to be flexible. Anyways, guys, before we end it, tell people how they can find you besides on Apex.
That's what I was going to say. First place you can find me on Apex. I'm going to be there joining the group and helping out Robbie and the rest of the team, answering questions, and, you know, whatever I can be of help, reach me out there. My telephone number, if it's okay, 787-671-1902. And my website is dreamcasapr.com. Dreamcasapr.com.
Yeah.
But reach me on Apex. It's the easiest place where you can find me.
Yeah, so you guys come and join us on Apex if you want to be a part of a dynamic real estate investing community that's learning and networking and doing deals together. And I've invited my Rolodex, my friends that I'm in business with, and we're going to be doing more real estate. For sure, I'm going to buy some more real estate next week, next month, and next year. The question is, what are you going to do? Come and join us on Apex if you want to be a real estate investor.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
All right,
Thanks for everything.
Enjoy your house.
I will.